are sitting in your shitty nursing home and you're sucking down on your jello night after night for the rest of your life, you think of me, you twisted fuck.
In the 18th century, philosopher Gottfried Leibniz proposed a philosophy he called Theodicy. He argued that our world is the best of all possible worlds, and that evil within it is necessary for universal balance. But how does this hold up when surrounded by so much pain? The central question of Theodicy is, if God is benevolent and omnipotent, why does evil exist? If he can stop suffering, why doesn't he? And if he can't, how is he omnipotent? This paradox shatters logic, especially when we witness stories like that of Nacho Varga.
Solo quería escuchar tu voz. Nacho, ¿dónde estás? Eso es muy raro.
Philosophers categorize evil into three types. The first is moral evil, acts committed by humans. Betrayal, violence, greed. In Nacho's world, these are the cartel's rules: torture, murder, blackmail. Hector Salamanca, Juan Bolsa, they choose cruelty, while Nacho, trying to survive, becomes complicit. The second type is natural evil: diseases, earthquakes, and death. At first glance, this doesn't touch Nacho, but consider his fatalism. He seems like a victim of an invisible force pushing him into the abyss. He says,
Mijo, ¿y cuándo va a terminar esto para ti? En eso ando trabajando.
Isn't this akin to a spiritual natural disaster? The third type is metaphysical evil, the inherently flawed structure of the world. Why is Nacho doomed to suffer even when trying to do the right thing? Why does his kindness toward his father lead to crime? Leibniz would say this is the price of harmony. But in the cartel's reality, this sounds like mockery. Consider, if the world truly is the best of all possible, why is there no place for Nacho, who only wants to save his father? Or do we misunderstand harmony?
Dios mío, mijo, ¿qué han hecho?
Nacho Varga is a man cornered by the system. His story begins with a forced choice that defines his life. We learn that Nacho entered the criminal world to protect his father's business from extortion. He didn't crave power, he wanted safety for his family. But the cartel, like a spider web, never releases those who enter its threads. A pivotal moment is switching Hector Salamanca's pills. To weaken the cartel tyrant, Nacho substitutes them with placebos, risking his life. This moral evil, poisoning a man, becomes his tool for survival. But did he have a choice?
Por favor, váyase de mi taller. Mi papá, por favor, don Héctor es muy generoso.
Hector threatened his father, and the cartel doesn't forgive weakness.
I'll talk to him. He'll come around.
I don't trust him.
Leibniz would ask, could God have created a world where Nacho escaped this fate? By his logic, no. Even Nacho's suffering is part of the best balance. But Arthur Schopenhauer, the 19th century pessimist, would counter. The world is hell, blind and meaningless. Hiding in a warehouse, Nacho mutters,
The only way that this works for you is with me dead. All right.
Pure Schopenhauer. Life is torment, where chance decides everything. Augustine, the 4th century philosopher, said, evil stems from free will. But what if this freedom is a trap? Nacho tries to flee the cartel knowing they'll kill his father. Technically, he's free to run, but the cost is too high. This isn't choice, it's coercion. Who's responsible for his actions? He follows the system's rules. Augustine argues, even under pressure, we're accountable for our choices. But Nacho isn't Hector. He's no sadist. He's a hostage. His evil is a means to protect what little he has left.
I need one thing.
Yes.
My dad. I need to know that he'll be safe.
Jean-Paul Sartre, father of existentialism, declared, "Man is condemned to be free." Nacho then must take responsibility, even if all options are horrific. But Nacho disagrees. Hiding from the cartel, he tells Mike, "I have no choice. They'll kill me." To him, freedom is a myth. His path is predetermined: death or self-betrayal. Consider John Hick's irony in Theodicy, which claims evil trains the soul for growth. But Nacho doesn't grow. He crumbles. Hick believes suffering leads to wisdom, but Nacho gains only pain and cynicism. Even his death isn't redemption. He sacrifices himself for his father, but this isn't heroism. It's desperation in a world where the right choice ends in a bullet.
It was over fast. No pain.
Augustine and Sartre speak of freedom. Hick of suffering's purpose. To Nacho, these are empty words. His story proves sometimes evil doesn't teach. It just kills. Nacho's death in the finale is the climax of absurdity. He chooses a bullet over the cartel's noose, shouting, "You're all damned." A sacrifice for his father? Yes, but it's not heroism. It's surrender to a world where even death can't atone. In his final moments, Nacho stands under gunfire in the desert, a symbol of emptiness. His monologue isn't farewell. It's an indictment. Damned refers to the cartel, himself, and everyone enabling this world. There's no higher purpose here, only rage.
But you know what? I would have done it for free because I hate every last one of you psycho sacks of shit.
Albert Camus wrote, "The absurd arises from humanity's search for meaning clashing with the universe's silence." Nacho seeks meaning in his suffering, but finds only fury. Hiding in a motel, his reflection shows not a man, but a cornered beast. The absurdity? His sacrifice changes nothing. The cartel lives on. Fyodor Dostoevsky, in The Brothers Karamazov, challenged, "If God does not exist, everything is permitted." Nacho inhabits such a world. He can betray, kill, lie. The cartel doesn't judge. But this freedom brings no relief. Trying to flee, he admits, "I'm tired, so tired." Even lawlessness can't numb the pain. Pure Camusian absurdity. Dostoevsky warned that without God, humanity descends into chaos. But Nacho isn't chaotic. He follows cartel rules, even while hating them. His pain stems not from freedom, but its absence. Even when everything is permitted, he's trapped by fear and duty. The irony? His final act, suicide, is his only free choice. Yet even this is born of despair. Camus called suicide the only serious philosophical problem. Nacho answers with action, but his answer isn't philosophy. It's a scream into the void.
What about my son? I'm sorry. He won't be found.
Leibniz believed evil was part of a harmonious whole, like shadows highlighting light. But Better Call Saul's world isn't a painting. It's chaos. Nacho's death doesn't restore balance. The cartel survives. Hector becomes disabled. Gus Fring builds a new lab. Where's the harmony?
Your son made some mistakes. He fell in with bad people. But he was never like them. Not really. He had a good heart.
Philosopher Epicurus in the 4th century BCE posed damning questions. If God wants to prevent evil but can't, he's not omnipotent. If he can but won't, he's not benevolent. Nacho embodies these dilemmas. Nacho doesn't justify the world. He rejects higher justice or tests. Planning his escape, his father says, "You can still choose the right path."
Veces, ¿sabes lo que tienes que hacer? A la policía.
Sí, papá. Te entiendo. Te oigo.
But for Nacho, there is no right path. Only death or disgrace. His final cry, "You're all damned," isn't a curse, but a statement. The world is cruel, and no force will fix it. Gus Fring, the cold strategist, tries to eliminate Hector, but fuels more hatred. Evil breeds evil, not harmony.
¿Qué más queda de decir? Adiós, hijo.
Leibniz would call this necessary evil. Nacho rejects this logic. His last act isn't compliance, it's refusal to play by the rules. He doesn't believe in the best of worlds, only a hell made by humans. Epicurus would ask, "Where is God?" Nacho would reply, "God is dead. We killed him." But in his case, God never existed. There's only desert, blood, and ticking clocks counting down to reckoning. Imagine Job from the Bible, a man tested by suffering who ultimately receives God's answer. Nacho Varga is Job without God. Facing gun barrels, he yells, "You're all damned." This isn't prayer, but an indictment of emptiness. Like Job, he asks, "Why?" But the sky stays silent. His suffering isn't a trial. It's as meaningless as the bullet that kills him. Max Weber's Protestant ethic speaks of predestination. Worldly success signals God's grace, but Nacho's fate is determined by men like Hector Salamanca. Trying to escape, he's stopped by threats to his father. He's no Calvinist entrepreneur. He's a slave to a system where predestination is written by drug cartels. Buddhism teaches that suffering stems from attachment. Nacho's love for his father is his weakness. He joins the cartel to protect his family, but even abandoning his family wouldn't save him. After killing Arturo, he stares at his bloody hands. Not enlightenment, but the yoke of karma he never chose. Job got an answer. Nacho didn't. Protestantism promises meaning through work. Nacho's work is murder. Buddhism offers liberation through detachment. Nacho detaches from life, not desire. His story contradicts all religious narratives. Even his sacrifice isn't redemption. It's proof. In a world ruled by men, divine logic has no place.
Okay. I get it. Just tell me what you want me to do.
Lalo Salamanca.
20th century philosopher Hans Jonas proposed a radical idea. God isn't omnipotent. He suffers with humanity. But Nacho's story leaves no room for this. His suffering is solitary. He dies in the desert surrounded by enemies. No one holds his hand or whispers comfort. Only wind and mercenaries' cold stares. If God exists, he watches silently as he watches Auschwitz. Nacho is a victim of the criminal system's micro-Auschwitz. The cartel, like a Nazi camp, erases identity. There's no higher meaning, no annihilation. Anti-Theodicy rejects justification. The world is unjust, evil is senseless, and Nacho's end proves it. His death doesn't redeem, save his father, or change the system. "I just want it to end," he pleads, not to God, but to emptiness. When Nacho's body hits the sand, the cartel doesn't bother with burial. His death is trash in the gears of a machine that grinds on. Adorno would say, "After Nacho, we can't make shows about moral choice, only systemic madness." Anti-Theodicy isn't philosophy, it's a scream. Like Nacho's cry, "You're all damned." He doesn't seek forgiveness or justice. He simply states, the world is cruel, absurd, and no one is coming to save you.